you expect the band to have 370 members. 370 is total members. So 370 is my Y this time. So I would put in 370 for Y. 370 would equal 13x plus 45. To solve for x, we do the one with the variable last. The opposite of positive 45 is negative 45 on both sides. 370 minus 45 is 325. 325 equals 13x. The opposite of multiply by 13 is divide by 13 on both sides. 325 divided by 13 is 25. 25 equals x. But it didn't ask me how many years it was. It said in what year. So if it's been 25 years since 1990, I have to take my 25 and add it to 1990 to get 2015. I predict there will be 370 members in the band. Let's take a look at the back. In 1960, about 45% of the U.S. population smoked cigarettes. Bad, bad, bad. The percentage of the U.S. population that smoked cigarettes over the years since 1960 has shown in the scatter plot. What's the first thing we notice about the scatter plot? Thank goodness this is a negative slope because the line goes down. That means that the number of people who smoke cigarettes has gone down. Praise God. But let's see if we can write an equation for the trend line. A, don't forget to focus on the fact that the line goes down, so it's a negative slope. We can see easily that B is between 40 and 50. Between 40 and 50 would be 45. So 45 would be my starting point, my initial value, my B. Then we need to find out how much our line is going down. We need to find 2 points that were on the line. And we can see that if we start at our starting point, 45, and go down to this point, even though it's not a point on the line, you can see that we go down from 45 to 40, which would be down 5. And our point is not quite on the line. It's a little before the line, so we'd need to estimate, and that would be about 8 because each line is 10. So our rise would be -5, our run would be 8, so our slope would be -5 over 8. That's kind of a tough one because none of the points were exactly on the line. So in my case, I would grade it. I would give credit for being close. But can you still answer B using our trend line and our labels? What does the X represent in the equation? Well, our X-axis is years since 1960. So B would be number of years since 1960. What does our Y represent in the equation? Our Y is of the U.S. population. So C would be percent of the U.S. population that smokes cigarettes. Let's use those answers to answer 8, 9, 10, and 11. Number 8, what does the slope represent in the context of the situation? The slope is negative 5 over 8. So y would be negative 5. So negative 5%. And x would be 8. So 8 years. 5% every 8 years equals my slope. What does the y-intercept represent in the context of the situation? The y-intercept is always your starting point. And in 1960, when we started, about 45% of the U.S. population smoked cigarettes. Very bad. Number 10. What year would you expect 5% of the U.S. population to smoke cigarettes? So we would need to use our equation. We said that Y represents the percentage of the U.S. population that smokes cigarettes. So we would put 5 in for Y. It would equal negative 5/8 times x plus 45. We do the 1 with the variable last. So we minus 45 on both sides. 5 minus 45 is negative 40. So we end up with negative 40 equals negative 5/8 x. The opposite of multiply by negative 5/8 is divide by negative 5/8 on both sides. And negative 40 divided by negative 5/8 is positive 64. So, in 64 years after 1960, we'd expect 5% of the population to be smoking. So 1960 plus 64 is 2024. So we hope that in 2024, only 5% of the population will be smoking cigarettes. So if we look at that, 64 would be approximately right here. And wouldn't that be approximately 5%? And wouldn't our line cross right about there? So if we continued our line with down 5, right 8, we'd be right at 2024, 64 years later. So you can check to see if your answers make sense. And we all know that by 2024, we're going to be so much smarter, so no one's going to be smoking, only the really dumb people, right? Okay, let's look at number 11. In 2016, about what percentage of the U.S. population would you expect to smoke? Well, let's see. 2016 is 56 years after 1960, because 2016 minus 1960 is 56. So if we put in 56 for our x, we would have y equals negative 5/8 times 56 plus 45. Negative 5/8 times 56 plus 45 is y equals 10. we'd expect only 10% of the population to be smoking. Still too many, but way better than 45%. Okay, we use that graph to learn a lot, and let's hope it is a true graph. Okay, our last problem. A scatter plot was created to show the temperature based on the altitude above sea level. The equation for the scatter plot's trend line is y equals negative 0.0035 x plus 59, where y represents the temperature in degrees Fahrenheit and x represents the distance above sea level in feet. Use the equation to answer the questions below. Number 8, what type of association would you expect the scatter plot to demonstrate? Well, because our slope is negative, we would have a negative association. Number 13, predict the temperature at 10,000 feet above sea level. X represents the distance above sea level in feet, so if we put in 10,000 for X, we would have 0.0035, but make sure you remember the negative, times 10,000 plus 59, and we get 24. So we would predict it to be 24 degrees, 10,000 feet above sea level. Number 14, predict the distance above sea level if the temperature is 35 degrees. Y represents the temperature, so if I put in 35 for Y, and it equals negative 0.0035 x plus 59, all I have to do is solve for x. The opposite of a plus 59 is a negative 59 on both sides. 35 minus 59 gives me negative 24. The opposite of multiply by negative 0.0035 is divide by negative 0.0035 on both sides. And negative 24 divided by negative 0.0035 equals 68757.14, which rounds to 6,857.1 feet. Or you could have rounded to just 6,857 feet, except they said round to the nearest tenth. Correct answer. I hope you've learned that trend lines are just equations. Once we have the equation, we can plug in our x or our y and find out anything we need to know about the trend line. So use your equations just like we've always used equations to solve problems. Make sure you pay attention to when they tell you what the y equals and to what the x equals. And make sure you remember to always do the one with the variable last. Do not ignore those negatives, and you'll always get the right answer. Don't forget, we can always plug it in to check. And if it's for the mastery test, please check your work. If you have any problems, contact me, and we'll work out some more problems together. Thanks. Stay safe and wash those hands. Bye-bye.